All right, so today we're diving deep into the story of a guy, a true icon, Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs,
Yeah,
yeah.
you probably know him as the brains behind Apple. But we're going way beyond, just the usual headlines.
Yeah.
We're going deep into the events and the philosophies that really shaped him.
Right.
Like, from a surprising connection to calligraphy
Mm-hmm.
to the time that he actually got fired from the very company that he built.
Yeah, that's
I
wild.
know it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's a really fascinating story.
it is.
I think it goes way beyond just the tech world. I mean, whether you're interested in like innovation or leadership
Yeah.
or just kind of the human story behind a legend,
Yeah,
I think you'll find something to connect with here.
definitely. And I think that's kind of the mission of this deep dive is
Right.
to really look at the man
Mhm.
behind the myth. Right.
Right.
So let's start with those early years. I mean, everyone pictures Steve Jobs as a success story, right?
Right.
But his path wasn't exactly, easy. I mean, it wasn't all, roses and sunshine.
No, not at all. And I think one of the most influential things on him was his adoption. Knowing that he was given up at birth really instilled this feeling in him that he was special yet different.
Yeah.
And it's this duality, I think, that really fueled his drive, his relentlessness.
That makes sense. And do you think that early experience kind of shaped his leadership style later on?
I do, yeah.
I mean, like that need to prove himself?
Yeah.
Do you think that translated into his vision for Apple?
Mm-hmm.
Always like pushing the boundaries, aiming for something, extraordinary?
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, it makes you think about that feeling of being different. Maybe that's what pushed him to challenge conventions,
Yeah.
to create things that were so different from everything else that was out there.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because he also dropped out of college,
Yeah.
which, I think a lot of people think is crazy.
Bold move, for
Yeah.
sure.
Bold move, and it freed him up to really explore his own interests.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which, believe it or not, included a calligraphy class.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to see how those seemingly random choices
Mhm.
can later influence, this big, huge company.
Yeah. And in his case, that calligraphy class, it really sparked this appreciation he had
Yeah.
for beautiful typography, for elegant design.
Mm,
And those are elements that became like synonymous with Apple products.
totally.
And I think that's really what he was going for. It's not just about the tech.
Mm.
It's about the whole experience, the
Yeah.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
He wanted to create things that weren't just functional,
Mm-hmm.
but beautiful.
Yeah, and I think we have to talk about him getting fired from Apple.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
The company he built.
I know, right? I mean, he poured his heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And then, boom, he's out.
Right.
How do you think that shaped his perspective on risk and failure?
Well, I think it's definitely a pivotal moment, in his story.
Yeah.
But instead of letting that setback, just crush him, I think he used it as
Yeah.
fuel for reinvention. And, this period in his life led him to NextT, which was a computer company. And while it wasn't a huge commercial success, they developed groundbreaking technology
Yeah.
that would later become the basis for Apple's macOS.
Wow.
So he kind of turned a failure,
Yeah.
into a stepping stone.
It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Totally, yeah.
And we also can't forget about Pixar.
All right.
I mean, during this time, he
Yeah.
also got this small graphics company
Yeah.
that, would revolutionize animation.
Toy Story.
Toy Story, the
Yep.
world's first, fully computer animated feature film.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly he was driven to innovate even outside, just computers.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually, all this led him back to Apple,
Yeah.
which at the time was really struggling to survive.
Yeah.
So talk about a comeback story
Right. It really is.
from being ousted to returning
Yeah.
as this, kind of savior.
Yeah, it's kind of Shakespearean.
It really is.
Yeah.
So what was the secret sauce
Right.
that transformed Apple from this struggling company into this global giant it is today?
Well, one key thing I think was accessibility.
Okay.
Steve had this vision of making computers user-friendly. Really breaking down those barriers that made technology seem intimidating to everyday people. Like the Apple I and II, they were really game changers in that way. Like the Apple II was, one of the first personal computers that had like a color display and user-friendly graphics.
Yeah.
So it just made it, so much more appealing to just the average person.
Right.
And that focus on user experience, it was radical at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it really played a huge role in democratizing technology, bringing it to the masses. Yeah, it really is incredible how he managed to just turn the company around.
It's amazing to think about like a company that's on the verge of bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
And then rising to, such heights.
Totally.
But I think it's important to kind of look beyond just the products themselves.
Right.
And try to understand the forces behind them.
Absolutely. And one of Jobs' core philosophies, I think, was simplicity.
Okay.
And, he didn't mean like simplistic. He was really obsessed with taking complex technology and making it intuitive, easy to use.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the aesthetics. It was about stripping away any unnecessary complexity to create this really seamless and enjoyable like user experience.
That makes sense when you think of it. Like the design of Apple products, right?
Right.
Like sleek.
Yeah.
They're known for being very intuitive.
Yeah.
Almost like they anticipate what you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. He was a master, I think, at understanding what users needed, even before they knew it themselves.
Yeah. And then there's that Think Different campaign.
Yeah, iconic.
I mean, it wasn't just about selling computers.
Yeah.
It was about selling an attitude.
A way of life.
Yeah, like challenging the status quo, embracing, individuality, pushing boundaries.
Yeah, you can really feel that, I think,
Yeah.
in everything that Apple does.
Totally. And he was a brilliant storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
He understood that power of connecting with people on an emotional level, right?
Yeah.
He positioned Apple as a brand. For the rebels.
Yeah.
For the innovators, the ones who dare to, challenge conventions.
Totally.
And let's not forget his perfectionism.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sure, he was demanding, but that unwavering commitment to excellence.
Right.
I mean, that's what led to these groundbreaking products.
Absolutely. He set the bar so high.
Yeah.
And that drive, for perfection really permeated the entire company culture. I mean, think about it. The meticulous attention to detail in every aspect of their products, from the hardware to the software, it's all about creating this cohesive and premium experience.
Yeah, and it's clear that he wasn't just a tech whiz.
Yeah.
He was a leader who, inspired incredible things from his teams.
Right.
That reality distortion feel that our sources mentioned, it sounds almost mythical.
It does.
How did he create this environment of innovation and dedication?
Well, that reality distortion feel, it was very real to the people that worked with him.
Yeah.
It was this unique blend of charisma, vision, sheer willpower that made people believe that, the impossible was possible.
Right.
He could convince people to just push beyond their limits to achieve things that they didn't even think that they could do.
And it's amazing how he embraced failure.
Yeah.
He didn't see setbacks as defeats. He saw them as learning experiences, right?
Absolutely.
Opportunities to improve.
That's key for any leader, especially in the fast-paced world of technology.
Right.
And, despite his demanding nature, Jobs really valued talent.
Yeah.
And he understood the importance of empowering people to, do their best work.
Yeah.
He created an environment where creativity could flourish, even if it meant clashing with people.
That's so interesting. We've talked a lot about his professional life.
Yeah.
But let's kind of shift gears a little bit
Right.
and talk about the personal side of Steve Jobs.
Right.
I mean, his interest in Zen Buddhism, it's so intriguing to me.
It is.
How do you think that shaped him both as a person and as a leader?
It's likely, I think, that his Zen practices, influenced his minimalist aesthetic, his focus on mindfulness.
Yeah.
He even credited meditation with helping him find clarity and make better decisions.
It's amazing.
You can even see this reflected, I think, in Apple's products, which are praised for their clean lines, intuitive design.
And of course, we can't overlook his battle with cancer.
Yeah.
To keep innovating, to keep leading through such a difficult personal challenge.
Right.
Really speaks volumes about his resilience.
It's a testament, I think, to his dedication to his vision.
Mm-hmm.
He refused to let these personal struggles derail his goals. And his determination really continued to inspire the people around him.
So looking back on this incredible life, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway? I mean, it goes beyond just the gadgets, the technology.
It does, absolutely.
What did you say?
I think Jobs' genius was his ability to humanize technology.
Right.
He created experiences that resonated with people on this emotional level.
Yeah.
He understood that technology wasn't just about, bits and bytes.
Yeah.
It was about enriching lives, connecting people.
He showed us that technology can be beautiful, it can be intuitive, it can be inspiring.
Right.
He wasn't just building machines, he was crafting experiences.
Exactly, yeah.
And let's not forget the impact of his leadership style. I mean, he inspired so many others to think differently, to take risks, to pursue their passions.
To challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
To strive for excellence in everything they do.
His impact is undeniable.
Yeah.
I mean, from music to communication to how we interact with the world. I mean, Jobs' innovations have left this mark on society.
Right. It's almost impossible to imagine a life without the products that he brought into existence. Yeah, it's crazy.
It makes you wonder, like, what other ideas are out there just waiting for the right person to come along, right?
Totally. And that brings us to something else I think that's important about Jobs, this relentless pursuit of perfection.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about creating products. It was about creating experiences that were exceptional.
You're right. He had this amazing ability to just anticipate what people wanted before they even knew it themselves. Like, take the iPod, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the first MP3 player on the market, but it completely changed.
Revolutionized.
Yeah, how we listen to music.
And it wasn't just the tech.
Right.
It was the design, the user interface, like the whole ecosystem that they created around it.
Yeah, like, remember those white earbuds?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they became
a fashion study.
a symbol.
Yeah. And speaking of cultural impact, we got to talk about the iPhone.
Oh, yeah. That's
It
right.
wasn't just a phone, right?
Right.
It was like this mini computer.
Yeah, pocket-sized computer.
Yeah. That transformed the way we communicate, the way we access information.
Everything.
I mean, think about how much has changed since the iPhone came out.
Oh, my gosh.
Social media, mobile apps.
Yeah.
The whole app economy.
Right.
It's mind-boggling.
It all stems from this one device.
It's like he opened a door to like a new world.
To a whole new world.
Of possibilities.
Totally.
So as we, wrap up this deep dive into Steve Jobs, what would you say is the biggest takeaway? I think it's that even the most audacious dreams can come true.
Yeah.
With passion, with resilience, and that willingness to just challenge conventions.
Yeah.
He showed us, the importance of simplicity, not as a lack of complexity,
Yeah.
but as a way of making tech accessible,
Right.
enjoyable for everyone.
And to think differently.
Yeah.
Right.
To embrace our individuality.
Yeah. And to never stop pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And he left this legacy that extends far beyond the products. You know, he inspired a whole generation of innovators, of entrepreneurs.
And here's a final thought I want to leave you with. If Steve Jobs were starting out today, I mean, what industries would he be disrupting? What would his think different message be for, all the challenges that we're facing right now?
That's a really great question. And I think it's a good one for everyone to kind of sit with.
Jobs' story is a reminder that innovation never stops and that the future is full of possibilities.
Limitless.
Limitless, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
On this deep dive into the life of Steve Jobs.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful, inspiring.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep thinking differently.